Hey, welcome to the 11th Engage Your Fanbase podcast. I am Kara Karma with Simon Says Booking and Publicity and engageyourfanbase.com and livemusicnewsandreview.com. And today, I'm very excited to have back Erwin from Ever Upward Entertainment, music booking agent and manager extraordinaire. and we are going to talk about our top we're going to talk about our top tips for maximizing your music's web presence in this DIY musician age, how to get your music in front of more people and people engaged with it. So just a little bit about me. I am a music publicist at Simon Says Booking out in Western Massachusetts in America, obviously. Well, hopefully that's, I don't know if that's obvious. Anyway, and I do music marketing, and I also do venue programming for a few one venue right now, but a few in the past. The Stone Church out in Newmarket, New Hampshire. And Erwin, you want to say a little bit about yourself first?
My name is Erwin, and I do booking and management. For now, my own company, Ever Upward Entertainment. I am also involved in the music industry in a bunch of ways, from production running to doing freelance festival work as well. Everything from artist relations to transportation, and a little bit of everything in between.
What festival stuff do you do? I don't remember you telling me about that before.
I've worked at Groove before, which is a festival out here in Colorado that isn't a festival anymore, and more prominently, I do artist relations for Arise Festival, which is a festival out in Loveland, Colorado, out here a little bit near Fort Collins, that has this will be their 5th year, and yeah, it's one of these kind of like self-conscious kind of festivals, a lot of like yoga and speakers and a lot of cool stuff like that. So again, yeah, this is their 5th year and do artist relations for them, and excited to hopefully be joining them again in August this year.
Cool. All right, so for our top 10 tips, they're not particularly in order, although the first one is important to be first. But top 10 tips for maximizing your music's web presence. And we're going to go into them and talk about the tip and then discuss it a little bit, and then we'll go on to the next one. So the first one I think is really important is that you need to always keep your goals in mind. And really, a lot of people go into social media or having a website or any kind of marketing that they're doing for their music or anything, and they're doing it because everybody else is doing it. But you really need to know what your why is. Like, why are you online? Why are you on social media? Why are you trying to get people to see your music online? And I don't know about you, Erwin, but I would suspect that most people's why would be most musicians' why, in my experience anyway, has been to, number one, get your music exposure, and number two, to make money.
Yeah. I think those are obviously the main things, more so than making money, especially with like new bands and such like that into the scene. I feel like a more prevalent reason to, kind of get out there and get your Facebook and social media presence up there, and your web presence is, like you said, to, gain exposure, more so, at least the beginning, than, to really make money off of, yeah, you can sell your music, you can sell merch online, but again, I feel like having that website is kind of is a professional aspect of things. You want it to be clean, and again, you kind of want people to know who you are. So again, like you said, I think exposure is definitely the main thing when getting your name out there.
Yeah. But also, in terms of making money as a goal, I think a lot of times with musicians, and what I've experienced with a lot of musicians, it's not so much like, I want to be rich and famous, as much as it's like, I would like to quit my day job and do this full time.
Put food on the table.
Yeah, exactly. And that's making money. And it really makes a difference when you do any kind of marketing to understand deeply what your goals are, and that should drive everything else that you're doing in all of your marketing efforts. And keeping those goals in mind at all the time, what your why is at all
Yeah, for
time, is
sure.
really important. So number two, we have having a consistent brand. And I know that's a dirty word sometimes when we use marketing speak with musicians, but I do it anyway because it describes how you need to have a consistent look and feel, and your copy needs to be consistent. Your bios and your how you're describing yourself um, need to be consistent across everything that you're doing online and offline, actually. Social media, your website. Um, so many times you go and you see a Facebook page that has a different look than the website, that has a different look than the Instagram page, the same pictures, the same bios, same look and feel everywhere,
Yeah,
online and
absolutely. And
off.
I think, what you do touches a little bit more on branding than, a booking agent really. I remember talking to you when we were talking about all that John T stuff, and, I think your first question was, or your first real point was, to make a point out of, the whole branding and, having that consistent. I think bios are
Mm-hmm.
huge. I think bios are
Mm-hmm.
something that a lot of bands don't really put a lot of focus on when they should.
Mm-hmm.
A bio is the
Yeah.
first thing that any talent buyer, that any venue, that any festival is going to read.
Mm-hmm.
I've come across some
Yep.
pretty horrible bios. So I
Yep.
do want to stress that, that along with, you want to have current, like you said, promo photos and stuff like that really kind of encompass your brand. But bios are huge. I can't stress that enough. Having something that isn't 2 pages
Yeah.
long and doesn't go into huge, descriptions of every single band member and every single one of their histories and what every single band member has played with before. And just having something that's, straight to the point, describing your music, maybe describing, the kind of influence that each band member brings to the table, but more so than that, kind of a more encompassing bio for bands that I think that goes overlooked a lot by a lot of bands and groups out there.
Well, I agree with you completely. It's one of my, as a venue programmer, when a band approaches me, and I mean, we talked about this last week a bit too. Somebody approaches me and said, "I'd like to book your venue." What am I going to do? I'm going to look at their bios. I'm going to either on their website or probably their Facebook page. And it's amazing how many times people don't
Yeah,
describe how they
exactly.
sound,
Exactly.
or or tell you where they're from. They're like, "I'm from planet Earth." I'm like, "Really? Like, how am I supposed to know if you're going to have a draw in Newmarket, New Hampshire, if I don't know if you're from Los Angeles versus,
Yeah,
Boston?"
exactly.
It doesn't help. There are specific things, and actually, I've got I think, decent few articles on engageyourfanbase.com about building your bios. And I think that, one of the interesting places to do that is on Facebook, because they give you these 3 different places to put your bios. You've got a short version, a
Right.
medium version, and a long version, and every band should have each
Yeah.
of those set, so that you can have your Twitter bio, which is 140 characters. Then you can have a medium bio that goes into more about what your influences are and your sound. And then, you can have that long bio that describes everybody if you really need to on your website. But, having a bio that, really tells, who you are, where you're from, what you sound like, who your influences are, uh, what it's like to come to one of your shows or to
Yeah,
listen to your music.
that's
That's
huge
really
too, for
key.
sure. And a lot of bios
Yeah.
don't have that. Don't really delve into the whole live
Hmm.
experience of things, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, some bands are more focused on music online, and some bands are more focused on live show. But if your show, for example, if you get people dancing, or if you if you have a big spectacle with glitter or whatever it is, that needs to be in your bio. That needs to be, the experience is what people are connecting with, and they need to know what to expect and what
Yeah,
they should look
absolutely.
forward to
And
by your bio.
I don't think too. It's I'm not a writer. I'm a math guy by education and just by how I think. I'm very science and math driven. So I've never been good with words. I think getting in this industry over the past 4 or 5 years, I've gotten a lot better with writing. Everything from writing bios to writing emails to writing press releases to writing all these things. But I'm not a manager for all these bands, and I'm not going to put my time in as a booking agent to revamp their bio and your
Yeah.
presence. I definitely don't think it's something that should be overlooked by bands to farm that out or to outsource that, to pay someone to write them a professional bio. And like you said, you can in this writing, you can have 3 different kinds of bios. You can have your short description, your medium description, and then your intense
Mm-hmm.
1-page bio that not a lot of people are going to read, but you want to have that out there. But I definitely don't think bands should rule that out. I definitely think that's something that they should definitely think about. If there is a bio that needs to be worked on, is to maybe hire one of their writer friends in the industry, or a fan that's also a writer,
Mm-hmm.
to be able
Yeah.
to write that, to kind of portray their image as best as they can, for sure.
And writing a bio and hiring someone to write a bio, I mean, I've been hired to do that, and it's actually not that expensive, and it's really worth
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
investment, because it's
Yeah,
your
exactly.
resume. When you're going out there and it's your resume and you want a good resume, you need the have your good step, best foot forward. One other thing that we were talking about with a consistent brand is those photographs, though, and really having investing in some high res good
Yeah,
press
absolutely.
photos is
Yeah,
also
absolutely.
really
And
important.
a lot of bands
Um,
go
so,
through I know I'm very familiar with, through lineup changes all the time, and you don't want to
yeah,
have your photo from 3 years ago being used,
yeah,
and I'm guilty of this a little bit, but having these photos being used for press releases 6
yeah,
months after the band
yep,
member's gone, or a year or two after the band member's
yeah,
gone, and fans notice that. It's just something that you want to keep, like you said, up to date. You want to keep that, whatever presence you have, whatever brand that your band is at that time. You want to have something, bio and photos, that can correctly portray that.
And you touched on something that's really important, is keeping it consistently up to date. Because one thing that's really important in your bio is you want to
Right.
talk about what's new. You want to talk about your latest album or your latest tour. And so many times I've looked on people's Facebook bios and they're like, "Our latest album out
Right.
in
Yeah. Exactly.
2011," and I'm like,
Yeah. I mean. Yeah.
if that's your latest album,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
your latest album.
A bio is definitely something that you can't expect to just write, and even like I said, like 6 months later, expect to use that same bio in those same
Yeah,
shots. It's definitely something that needs to be on a list for bands that are kind of, um, I've started a list of things that are kind of like ongoing band tasks, ongoing management tasks, and stuff like that.
mhm,
That's one of those things high up on the list that you always need to think about. You always need to go back and read, because you're not reading your bio, as much as the people you're pitching to, but it's got to be something that
yeah,
you are, going back to every so often, and kind of rereading and saying, like, okay, is this what our band is at this
yeah,
point in our stage? Is this still accurately portray, like you said, our studio albums as well as our live experience? It's definitely something that
mhm,
bands kind of lose track of after you've gotten a bio, and they'll throw it out there, that don't really go back and sorry about that, and reread it and kind of
yeah,
update it to the current, to how they are currently.
yeah. So I'm going to go on to the next tip, which is integrate everything. Um, and that is kind of going towards talking about your website, but integrate your website, your social media, um, your streaming, all of those things should work as kind of one organism that feeds on itself. So your SoundCloud is featured on your website, and your Instagram is has a tab on your Facebook page, that kind of thing, where everything's pointing in towards itself and reinforcing your brand. Some of the tips we talked about that we wanted to bring up for the website. I don't know. Do you have the agenda there too?
Yeah, I got it pulled up.
All right. It drives me crazy when you cannot stream a band's music, when you have to download it, even if it's a free
streaming's
download.
huge. No one's going to take the time. I mean, yeah, people are going to take the time, but it's a pain in the ass. Yeah, it's a pain in the ass to download a song and play it through iTunes because you can't find anywhere to stream it, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, even if it's free, even if it's a free download, offer the free download. That's great, but streaming live music and for God's sakes, that's what I said on my notes. For God's sakes, have an EPK, and an online EPK that again integrates everything: your bio, your pictures, your streaming live music, your video, your press, any kind of awards or achievements, your contact info. I mean, how many times have I seen these things? People don't have their contact info. It's like, look at us, we're an awesome band, but you can't find us. It's really, obviously social media, lists of venues, your writers, any other promotional material. Do you have anything that you want to add to that?
I think that's a pretty good list. There's a bunch of really good websites out there in the booking agency world, and I'm actually building my website right now just because the company's so new, and there's a bunch of things that our developer has brought up to me, which is really great. For instance, and again, this isn't up, it should be up hopefully in the next couple of weeks, but for the news area for my website, I'm not even going to be posting directly on the website. It's basically a feed that ties into Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. You can choose which ones you want to show, and it's a really, really cool looking wall that just basically throws everything on there from these social media sites, which is basically what news is. It's instead of having
that's where we get our news.
Instead of having somewhere else to post what you're going to post, it basically just takes it and feeds it to your website. I think there's also a bunch of really cool websites. I don't know if you've checked out, but I've taken inspiration from a bunch of different sites that I've checked out, such as Hoplite, which is a big agency up in Burlington. They do a really good job with having all their, band promo material, writers, promo photos, like you said, on their website. So, once you book shows, it's not a back and forth in emails, and you're not, losing hours and hours of time making sure all these venues have all this information when you can literally just send them to this one link. That it's the band website on the band site on the agency's website that they can basically go for all promotional materials. So there's a lot of different ways to have all that in one place. But again, like you said, it's all super important to have an EPK and bio, streaming, video. Press is huge, like you said. So there's a lot of different ways to do that. And again, going back to the website thing for bands out there listening. I feel like most people are using WordPress and these kinds of sites that are already pre-built, and just take some time to research it, because there are so many plugins out there that can be catered to what you want your website to look like, or the information that you want on there. So it's definitely out there. It's just a fact of finding the right one that's a good fit for, again, your brand and your website and your band, to get all that stuff out there.
I develop on WordPress, and it's amazing. It's like anything that you could. It's like your iPhone, and anything you could possibly want to do in the world, you can find an app. There's an app for that, right? There's a plugin for that, and a lot of times, there's things that I wouldn't think of. Things like, gosh, I wish the website could do this. And then I'll be like, oh, and I'll just search it, and there's a plugin for it. So WordPress, I love WordPress, and I highly recommend it. And it's very
super user-friendly, even for people, who don't have any sort of computer science or programming background, for sure.
Yep. I don't, but I built, and the Simon Says booking website also has that integrated APK capability that you're talking
Yeah,
about with
and
Hoplite,
you brought that
and
up.
it's
Yeah, you
really
brought that up
important.
to me, and y'all's is really
Yeah,
nice as well, just having every band's EPKs on there.
yeah, but it's really important. Well, this goes back to, our discussion before a little bit too. It's really important to have all those pieces. Um, And it's important to work with whoever you're working with to make sure that they have all those pieces so they can
Yeah,
put them up
exactly.
for you. um, and being if you're in a booking agency, like Simon says, and you have someone who's really trying to sell you, or like Ever Upward Entertainment is trying to sell you, you need to be their partner in giving them all the information that they need that can help
Yeah,
them
yeah.
sell
I
you,
mean, that, and that
you know?
goes back to our
Um,
whole conversation of last week, and um, it's not an agency's job. It's still a band's job to
mhm.
sell yourself. An agency is
Yep,
just here to make that happen, and in order for us to make that happen,
yep.
we need all those pieces of the puzzle
Mhm.
from the bands or from the acts to be able to do that.
Yeah, yeah. Um, and I think you said you wanted to talk a little bit about streaming. I think that kind of goes under integrate everything. Did you have something you wanted to say about
Um,
streaming?
I don't know. Yeah, we can. So yeah, we
You
can
want to
come
come
back
back
to
to
that.
that?
It'll be a little bit. I think. I mean, it kind of goes into integrating the website, with SoundCloud and CD Baby. Again, I think streaming is huge, like you
Hmm.
said. I mean, it's especially a lot of people who are working off computers that you can't necessarily download stuff like Chromebooks, for instance. You can't download files. The only real way to listen to stuff is through streaming. But
I
yeah,
didn't know
yeah, you
that.
can't. I'm
Hmm.
pretty sure you can't download any file. I mean, you can do Google Docs and stuff like that, but the whole point of it is that it's
Hmm.
it's so quick because
It's all
because
on
you're
the
not
cloud.
downloading apps and all that other stuff that you can on
Yeah.
computers or on your traditional computer. But going on to streaming and CD Baby, I personally have used CD Baby when it comes to getting band music up online. CD Baby goes out to Spotify, Pandora, Shazam, all these apps
Yep.
that are pretty much solely streaming apps. So that would be my recommendation for that. And it also goes to iTunes. So it also gets your music up on iTunes,
Hmm.
obviously up on
Yep.
CD Baby that you can buy physical copies as well as digital. But that is
Yep.
what I would recommend for bands that who are looking to get their album out there and getting on streaming sites. CD Baby is super cheap. I think it's like $50 or something, and it'll get it up there within a couple weeks.
What is your take on I got a lot of people that ask me, should I be on CD Baby or should I be on Bandcamp? Now, personally, I think that the Bandcamp is not a one-trick pony, but CD Baby is going to spread
Right.
you everywhere. And so I don't know,
I
what
mean,
is your,
I think,
or do you think
yeah,
you
I
should do
think
both?
both. Again,
Mhm.
I like Bandcamp because they don't take a cut of I'm pretty sure they don't take. If they do, it's not as massive of a cut as sites
Yeah.
like CD Baby. So in that case, I would encourage bands to try to sell their album independently on on Bandcamp. Um, and also Bandcamp is really good to use, again, like you're saying, to send to talent buyers or to festivals or to whoever you're really trying to pitch, just because it
Hmm.
is a streaming site. But I definitely think
Hmm.
CD Baby is huge to get anywhere, you know, not when you're trying to reach people indirectly, kind of, is I guess a good way to put it. It's
Yeah.
because CD Baby, again, will get all your music on Shazam and on Pandora and on Spotify,
Yeah.
and on
Spotify.
iTunes.
Hmm.
So,
Hmm. And a
yeah, and a
bunch of
bunch of
other
other places.
places. I
I
mean,
think they've got a
Deezer
list of
and
like
Last
20,
FM and
25 different
everything.
streaming sites and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So I personally, for any band
Hmm.
that I've managed, I've done both, just because, again, Bandcamp is really good to put an album on, to be able to stream your entire album, especially if you just released one or a live album or whatever music you're really trying to get out there. But again, it doesn't do what CD Baby does in terms of really getting your music out to all these different outlets.
Yeah. I mean, since we're on streaming, thoughts on SoundCloud. I personally am a big
I am
SoundCloud fan,
personally not
but
a big SoundCloud fan.
why is
I don't
that?
know. It's a good question. I find myself going more towards Bandcamp because it seems a little bit more condensed. I think SoundCloud is really good, and I don't really have that much experience, with using any of them really, other than for selling bands or for listening to bands and stuff that's sent to me. But I feel like SoundCloud is really good in terms of in terms of sharing, in terms of like social media, and in terms of engaging a fan base. I think SoundCloud is really good for that. And again, I don't really have that much experience with it. Whereas, you've got all these tags and stuff in SoundCloud that I feel like, you have it in Bandcamp, but it's not as prevalent. So that's why I kind of I prefer Bandcamp when bands, if a band sends me a SoundCloud or Bandcamp link, I am 9 out of 10 times more likely to just go to the Bandcamp and listen to it. However, again, SoundCloud, I feel like has done a lot over the past year or so in really kind of engaging, like I was saying, fans and really sharing music, which when it comes to sharing music, I'm all about Spotify. So I'll use Spotify over SoundCloud, when I'm trying to share music with anyone and, send music to other people. So that's just my personal preference. I know that a lot of people do like SoundCloud. I've just personally never really been a fan. Again, I feel like a lot of things are kind of personal preferences and stuff like that. But
Well, and that's why I think that kind of goes back to what we were saying, though, is that, you kind of want to be
yeah,
on all of them because people have
exactly.
personal preferences. It's like social media. I mean, we'll get to social media later, but, different people are on different
Yeah, like
platforms
I'm all about
and
Facebook.
reaching them.
I just got a Twitter last week because of this podcast.
All right, let's move on. So our next number 4 tip is keep search in mind. You need to be findable on the internet if you want your music to
Yeah,
have a web
absolutely.
presence. And a lot of people, search engine optimization is a big, scary, ghost in the corner, skeleton in the corner, or whatever it is. But there's really simple things like understanding your keywords, and you can use like a Google AdWords keyword tool. If you
Yeah.
just Google that, the AdWord keyword tool, and put in your main, like if you're a blues band, say blues band, and it'll spit out a whole bunch of different keywords that people are using when they're searching that will help you figure out, should I be using blues band or
Right.
blues music? Which one is searched more? And understanding your keywords is really important because, when we're talking about, for example, integrating everything and integrating, one of the things I liked about SoundCloud is I really like their player when you put it on a website. I think it
I
looks
do
nice
like
and
that.
clean.
I do like
But
SoundCloud's integration and plug-in when they put on websites. I will say that for sure.
yeah, yeah. And but you don't, for example, want to just put the plugin on the website and just have the picture, just have the player. You need to put that in context with text around it, so that with using those keywords, so that you're searchable. Another really important thing is link backs. Working even if you're linking back to your website from your own social media, but especially if you can link back from, for example, from the Ever Upward Entertainment or the Simon Says Booking websites and links back to your website, that is increasing your search engine optimization. Simple tricks like that, and you can Google them. Simple tricks for SEO. Are really important when you're thinking about your web presence. Did you have something
No,
that
I
you
think
wanted
you
to say about that
pretty
stuff?
much covered that. Yeah.
Well, the Google is the number one, obviously, search engine. The second biggest search engine, bigger than, I think it's like Bing, Yahoo, and something else combined, is
Really?
YouTube. And so many,
Well,
yep, and
YouTube's
so
tied
many
into Google now
musicians.
too. I mean, if you search
It is,
Google,
but YouTube
right?
itself searches more than Bing,
That's
Yahoo, and
pretty
something else
crazy.
combined. I can't remember what it is. And it is. And, you know, we're talking about musicians, and we're talking about something that is really very well received and easily digestible visually and video. You know, it's really important, you know, live music or music videos and all that stuff. And, you know, it's really important that, you know, I think a lot of musicians are missing the boat when they're not
Yeah, for
investing in
sure. I mean,
YouTube. And it's something that I'm,
every musician
go
should
ahead.
have their YouTube channel. That's not even a question. I mean, that's yeah,
And a
yeah.
channel,
Right.
not
That's
just
what I
some
mean. Yeah,
videos up
you
under
should have
somebody's name.
a channel where all your videos are under, which I do feel like a lot of
Hmm.
bands surprisingly don't have. I mean, I feel like that's, you know, one of those. Yeah, I feel like
A
that's one of
lot.
those things that, you know, when you set up your website, when you set up your Facebook, when you set up your Twitter, you know, you should be doing the exact same thing with YouTube. You should be setting up your YouTube channel. One of the biggest
Hmm.
things that talent buyers and venues and, you know, festivals want to see are videos. I mean, you're booking a live
Yep.
event. Yeah,
What do you
exactly.
like?
You know,
Hmm.
that's what they want to see.
Yep. Yep. And some tips for setting up your channel. It's really important to think about your channel art and how you're branding yourself. Again, that consistent brand across your marketing channels, and your description that again has keywords that are going to help with your search engine optimization within YouTube and within Google and other search engines because they search YouTube besides
Right.
internal search in YouTube. Um, every YouTube video you have needs a good description, not just like live at X venue. You know, what are you doing? What are you playing? What use those keywords that are so important. And in the title needs to be keyword relating and using the tags. I mean, so many times it's just the tag is, you know, X band, you know, and that's great because if somebody's searching for X band,
Yeah, yeah.
then they'll find you. But a lot of times people are searching for blues music. I don't know why I have blues on my brain, but you know, or you
Yeah,
know,
I mean, you
live
know,
blues music. You know, if you're
that's really good for,
go
you
ahead.
know, like you said, gaining new fans. I mean, the whole retention thing. Yeah, I mean, like you said, have X band, but again, the whole point of being online and having a presence is to grow your fan base. It's not to only keep, you know, the fans that you have. So yeah,
Hmm.
like you said, I think
To reach out
exactly.
to new people.
And you know, the only way you're going to
Hmm.
do that is, like you said, by using tags, by using keywords, because no one knows your band. I mean, no one's going to be searching for your band in the sense that we're talking about that you want to. Right,
Not no
exactly,
one,
exactly.
but yeah,
In the
exactly.
sense of, you know, in the sense
You
of
know, and
gaining new
it's funny.
fans.
I have two 13-year-olds, and they find all of their music. Now, granted, that is a certain demographic, but they find all of their music
On YouTube.
on YouTube.
Yeah.
All of it. All of it. They they and it's not even just searching for those tags. If they're listening to some EDM
They're
thing,
13 year
not my
old
bag.
Skrillex
Um,
fans.
yeah, yeah, pretty much. They
Well,
are. They
he's
are actually.
Justin Bieber now, so
Um,
it's not too hard not to.
they like those. They
I said he's
what's
doing
that?
music with Justin Bieber now, so it's kind of hard not to be.
Well, I think they were pre Justin Bieber. I just like to think they're a little cooler than that. But anyway, so they'll watch a video and then there's all these videos that are
Right,
suggested in the side and they'll
right,
just click on those videos. Now those videos are on the side because
right.
they have the same tags
Yeah,
and the same keywords and the same search. So search engine optimization. So it's really important if you want to be discovered by new viewers and new fans that you are paying attention to all of the possible ways that you can improve
yeah,
your
for
YouTube
sure.
standing. I mean, I could go on for a while, but we don't need to do that now. Um, Number 5, are we on 5? Yes. Use social media. Now, this is obvious, but I want to say effectively and consistently. And what I mean by that is, again, like I was saying at the beginning, don't just be there to be there. You need to keep your goals in mind.
Right.
Why are you on social media? But more importantly, being consistent because there are so many times where you know you'll go to a band. So, and I do this when I'm booking a band, and I want to see. One of the things I want to see is how do they market themselves. So I know, are they going to do a good job marketing the show I'm going to give them, or are they going to, you know, think I'm going to do all
Right,
the
yeah.
work and just sit back? And you know, their consistency, the bands that are consistent and who are you know posting consistently every day and doing promotion of their shows, those are the bands that are, number one, going to do better in the long run, and number two, I'm going to book. Do you have something you want to add to that?
I mean, kind of tied into this, the whole consistency thing. We've been talking about getting fans and acquiring these fans, which is a very important part. But after you acquire them, the next biggest part is that retention aspect. And the only real way to kind of get that retention there is by doing exactly what you're saying, by posting consistently, by trying to engage your Facebook fans, trying to have a conversation. I mean, that's the whole aspect of social media, is that it's a social platform. You want to be talking with your fans. And like you said, I mean, the best way to do that, the best way to retain these new viewers, these new folks that are listening to you, is by posting consistently and trying to talk with them as much as you can.
Yeah. And I think that, one really important thing to keep in mind is there are so many different places you could be on social media, and you really need to take a look at what are your band's resources and what can you realistically consistent and effective with, because so many bands have, they're on Instagram and Snapchat and Twitter and Periscope and Facebook, and they're on everything, but they're just doing a minimal amount on each social media platform, instead of picking one or two and diving deeply into it and really understanding their fans. And different platforms have different fans and different people that are going to engage with them, and it is in an ideal world you can engage with all of them, and I highly recommend, especially if you have a bigger band, picking people in the band to, you're our Facebook person and you're our Twitter person, and having those people dive deeply into those. But if you can't do that, really pick your battle and figure out which one it's going to be.
Yeah, definitely.
And dive
and kind of going with that, it's never a bad idea to, and this, I feel like is a lot more with Twitter, just because Twitter is like so quick and easy, and you should definitely link up your Facebook with Twitter and your Instagram with Twitter. So again, that you don't, going back to the whole website thing and how I was saying that, my news wall is basically going to be something that I'm not posting on. It makes it easier for you. It gets yourself on all these social media platforms at the same time. Additionally, Instagram and Facebook can be linked up. So, I don't think it's smart to have that permanently linked up. You don't need to share every single thing you share on Instagram on your Facebook, but, those important posts, you can, and you can have a choice, whether to share it on Twitter and on Facebook and on your social media platforms. So, I mean, there's definitely different ways that you can tie these in manually, and, kind of pick and choose what platforms you want these, news stories and these photos and these status updates to go on. And, you can pick those in a strategic way to be able to, help, again, your brand and your presence.
Well, I think the important thing about what you said, though, is that you're picking and choosing. And, you don't want to have a situation, which I have a client right now who's, we're going to talk about, all of their, actually, I think it's all their artist data stuff, but their Twitter is simply reposting other things that are on other social media platforms. And people who follow Twitter know that.
Right.
And they're not interested. So there's on one hand automation, which we'll talk about later, but there's on the other hand, understanding what people on that platform are really looking for and trying to customize what you're doing for that platform. And it's a balance, because you can't be everywhere at every time, which is why, you might need not to be a jack of all trades, but you can enhance this automated part by doing that. You had brought up Facebook groups versus fan pages when we were talking about
so that's something that with Facebook's ever-changing way of engaging their fans and getting likes and all that
Mm-hmm.
stuff, I mean, I like hundreds of pages on Facebook. I mean, every single time.
But how
Say
often do
what?
you see their posts?
Not a lot.
How often do you see their posts?
I mean, there's so many venues, so many bands that I just end up liking just because they're liking, because I end up working with them, and it's easy to keep track. It's easier to keep track, let's say, than to not having those on your like page or whatever. But with Facebook's ever changing advertising ways, I find that a really good way, and I see this a lot now with a lot of bands that are in the scene and really kind of thrive off the live music environment, and especially those who have street teams and stuff like that, is starting a new group, a fan page for the band. Because when you join these private, or they can be public groups, they don't need to be private groups, but when you join these groups, you're more likely to see what you post than if just the band was posting it themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Even if they're promoting their
Yeah,
posts, they're much more likely. Every time someone I know posts in a fan group, I get a notification. You don't get a notification every time something's on your wall, but you get a
right,
notification when something's
exactly.
in a
Yeah.
group.
So yeah, I found that's a really good
Yeah,
way to,
definitely.
build a street team to kind of keep your core fan
Mm-hmm.
base, together and in a place that you can easily get in touch with them. Because not everyone's seeing your
Yeah,
posts. I mean,
yeah,
the majority of people,
yeah.
the majority of people aren't.
Most people aren't. Yeah, yeah. We had Walter said there's a quote from Gary Vee: "People do not market like the year they are in." I'm not quite sure what that means. Do you know what that
I
means?
don't. And I don't know if he can chime in. I feel like that might go hand in hand with ever changing technology. Um, if that's
Mhm.
what he's talking about, and again, technology changes so rapid. I mean, Facebook is not the same Facebook it was even 6 months ago. I mean, they, yeah,
Or last week.
I mean, they change stuff so consistently that it's definitely something that you need to keep track of, and continue research to see what the best way is to
Yeah.
get in touch with those fans of yours. That would be my best guess as to what he's saying.
Well, Walter, feel free to expand upon that in the comments area, and if you're
Sweet.
that's what you're saying. All right, yeah, yeah, you're okay. Thank you. That's totally true. We're gonna open the seat up later if you're interested in hopping in, by the way. Um, I would like to go on to our next tip, since this is a lot longer than I expected, which is fun though. Network all the time. Network with other musicians, with journalists, with music blog writers, and most importantly, with fans. Um, when you're networking with other musicians, you can cross promote with them, and you can, do those link backs that I talked about. Sending each other to each other's websites. That increases your SEO, for example. Um, but it's really understanding these personal relationships, especially when you're talking about the press or music blogs. Getting to know people on a personal level, you're going to have a lot
Yeah,
more success, and you're going to have a lot more success as a musician when
yeah,
you network
absolutely. And
with your fans.
I
What were
would
you going
put
to
a
say?
very, and I read an article about this the other day actually. I would put a lot of weight on, you know, not necessarily. This article was talking about, you know, bands are more successful when they treat networking as a friendship, as opposed to treating it as, I'm going to network with
Yeah,
you so I can get ahead. That's not. It has, yeah, it
it
has to
has
be
to be
genuine. It has to
genuine.
be symbiotic. But don't be afraid to go out there and
Hmm.
make friends in the industry. That's what really will get people behind you. I mean, there's nothing like
Yep.
friends wanting to help friends. It's not something, that you're going to want to like
Hmm.
email management of a band and be like, hey, like, can you guys tag us on Facebook? Like, that's not how this works. Friendships are huge,
Yeah.
and those.
It's kind of
Say
old
what?
school that way, isn't it? Of an industry. It's kind of an old school industry in that way that, it is a big network of people who are creative and trying to
Yeah,
support
absolutely. And
creativity
it's
in
again,
a way.
it's friends helping friends. And I can't really stress that
Hmm.
enough. It's huge. In literally every aspect, I mean, from bands to agents to talent buyers to organizers. It's a, like you said, it's a genuine thing. When people know you on a personal level, it goes a long way for sure.
Walter said it's building relationships is the same in any industry, and I agree. There is a different feel to it in the music industry, though, because it is such a there are so many opportunities to network. There are opportunities to engage with, if you're making a product and you're selling it, you're going to chamber events and they're very, stilted and kind of environments. Whereas in the music industry, it's just like a lot of times this big club where literally a club where you're networking with venue owners, and you're networking with promoters, and you're networking with fans, and you're having an interaction with the people who are buying your product essentially. Again, I know the marketing speak, but that's what you're doing, is you're having a back and forth with the people who you want to engage with what you're doing. And that kind of relationship building, the networking with press and all that, yeah, that's pretty, kind of the same thing as you would have to do with any other industry. But that networking with your end consumer essentially
Yeah,
is pretty
absolutely.
special. And it's a cool opportunity to meet people
Yeah,
and grow as a person as
like,
well.
I'll give you an example.
Besides,
Jam Cruise is a huge networking
mhm,
cruise ship, is what it is. And I've actually never been. I'm hoping to go next year. But I was talking to my buddy who manages Pigeons playing ping pong and Kitchen Dwellers and a few other bands, and I was just talking to him. It's like, yeah, it's like, it seemed like a huge, networking cruise ship. And he's like, yeah, I mean, it is, but like, it's not. I mean, I maybe talked business, a couple hours throughout the entire weekend, condensed in a couple hours. It's more so about, getting to meet those people who I've worked with for the past, 4 or 5 years, only through phone calls and emails, and kind of getting to know them on a more personal level. That really, again, goes a long way. I mean, as soon as you meet these people
yeah,
and, get a face to face with them, and, kind of find out what they're about, completely separate than, business, which, it's in the music industry, it's different because it's very hard to also separate that. I mean, everyone in the music industry loves music. I mean, that's why we're in this industry.
yeah,
So, again, that's a little bit hard to compare
yeah,
as well. But again, it's something that it's not necessarily networking so much as building these personal relationships that will probably help you in the future as well.
yeah. Well, there's a lot of opportunities for that organic networking that's really important, but at the same time, remembering that you're in a business. It's almost sometimes the opposite, like you're having a lot of fun and you're networking without realizing it, but remember that you want to build on those
Yeah,
relationships you make at
exactly.
the Jam Cruise so that
Exactly.
everyone can do better in
It's
the long
friends
run.
helping friends.
Um,
We all want to see each other succeed.
yeah. The next tip for your music presence, very straightforward. Be on online calendars. It's so simple to put your gig on Jambase or Eventful or Bands in Town or any of your local on calendars. Really important, really simple. People look there and you want them to come see your gig. I don't think there's really that much to say about this tip as much as
Yeah,
it just needs to
I
be
do
said.
have Or well, I
Yeah,
guess
you
this
got something
falls
good.
under number 10, so we can wait. Um, yeah.
Okay. All right. The next one, what is this, 8? Um, talk about your web presence in music. You know, the web and your social media does not, well, it's kind of a bubble, but it needs to not be in a bubble. And when you're at a gig, talk about it. Talk about visiting your website. Talk about going to your social media sites. Talk about how much fun it is to engage with people with your silly photos on Instagram. It's important that people know you're there and know that you have your personality, that you can bring, they can bring this amazing live experience that they're experiencing, um, and bring it home with them and engage with it again. So many times bands, well, my biggest pet peeve, I'd say, with bands are when they go on stage and play an entire
Yeah.
set and never say who they are. The second,
No, yeah.
it happens a lot. But just taking a moment. It's not sales.
Yeah, for
It's
sure.
information that people
Yeah,
want to
I
know.
always I
You know.
always tell bands,
Go ahead.
mention Facebook once a set. At the end of your set, we are X band, visit our Facebook page. And if I mean, this should go without saying,
Mhm.
if you don't have a Facebook page that's something like facebook.com/X band, then you need to do that immediately. There's no reason that you shouldn't have a short link on your
Yes.
Facebook that's very, very easy to get to. But yeah, I mean, even mentioning that ticket sales, or sorry, ticket giveaways, stuff like that's huge. Just mentioning it once, and even
Hmm.
having, I know I've been at shows before and heard bands say that, and I've literally gone on my phone and liked that band page. Even
Me
that
too.
one page like is progress. And yeah, I
Yep.
go
And
for it.
go ahead. Well, I suppose maybe the first tip should have been get a Facebook page. I mean, we're kind of assuming that people have started there, but again, from the venue booking perspective, if a band doesn't have a Facebook page, I really have a hard
Oh yeah,
time
absolutely.
considering them at all.
Facebook, Facebook
And
like
and
Facebook
you know
likes are
the,
the first thing that I see.
Mhm,
They for
mhm.
me
Yep.
that is, yeah, exactly.
Whether for better or for worse,
For
that's what
me
we look at.
that's
Yep.
probably number one on the priority list of what I see um, when I go to a band's page. I even go to the band's page itself. Like a lot of the times I'll literally just go to
Yeah.
their Facebook page, and that's what I'll use to see all their
Yep.
information.
It'll have the music, the pictures, the
Yeah,
videos, the
yeah.
bios, the everything you need. Yep. Although it's really
No, no,
important to have
yeah,
a band
absolutely.
website if you're going to be
I'm
serious
not
about this stuff.
saying that it's not.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, the next number 9 tip is email marketing, and I think a lot of bands don't take this quite as seriously. I'd say the two things on this list that I think bands should really consider seriously are YouTube and email marketing. Because email marketing is so powerful, especially when you are targeting people geographically. Um, and it's a way to funnel, to be able to reach out to fans who have self-selected that they want to know about you, to tell them we're going to be in your area, or we've got this new CD out, or um, you know just to be able to funnel them into your community and your social media communities is so important. um, and so many artists have built their fan bases based on email marketing, and have built their ability to say to a club, yeah, I can bring 100 people to that show because I know that I have, you know 800 people in that
Right.
area that are on my mailing list. That's
Yeah, for
powerful
sure.
stuff. What
Um,
were you gonna say?
I mean, this kind of ties into this, I guess, the whole geographical thing that it's not next on our list, so I felt like I should just bring it up. But sponsored
Hmm.
posts, sponsored ads on Facebook are also huge. And for me, I feel like it's something that's really kind of trial and error. Targeting,
Yeah.
and they have so many options that it literally feels like it changes every week. But from options of targeting your fans, or targeting your fans' friends, or targeting people that don't like you but live in a certain area, or targeting people that don't like you but listen to a certain kind of music. I've had a lot of bands ask me, and honestly, I mean, all I can say is that it's really kind of a trial and error thing, and kind of seeing what works best, and what works best with what kind of posts you're promoting. I mean, if you promote an Atlanta gig, say, that's only Atlanta, you're obviously not going to share that with all your fans. You should share that with either your fans or your fans' friends, or even just everyone in the Atlanta area. And then, kind of tying on that, it's like, well, maybe for Atlanta, you don't want to target every single person in Atlanta because it's a 6 million person town. But if you're playing somewhere like Black Mountain or Asheville, North Carolina, where it's a little bit smaller, you might want to think about doing that. So there's a lot of different ways that you can do that with Facebook, but it is absolutely, it's definitely worth it. It's definitely worth putting a few bucks for, either shows or, for when you release tour dates, to get out there to your fans and kind of see what the best way is for you to use those targeted posts, and the best way for you to spend that money, and to try to get it out there in front of the right people. Because again, the majority of your fans aren't seeing your Facebook posts and your tour dates that you're releasing, unless it is paid for and targeted.
Well, the great thing, there are so many tools out there to be able to target people, and specifically based on their metrics. I mean, there's so much data. Data's king these days, right? But I'd like to encourage bands to think about, all right, $20 into a promoted post, and that's whatever, 2 extra tickets, if 2 extra people can come to your show based on your post. I mean, was it worth it? I mean, you have to spend money to make money sometimes.
Most times.
So I agree with you completely. Interestingly, I have a band that I work with that is not Facebook. Facebook is, its own monolith, and they can do what they want, and they won't let them do promoted posts anymore because the name of the band is Love Whip, and they think they're sex toys.
Really?
And they won't let them. They'll let them have a Facebook page, but they will not let them do promoted posts. They will not take their money and let them do promoted posts.
I do know.
So I mean,
there's a lot of things I've taken into account. I know for a fact, there's some bands that I've worked with that, and I've found this over time because I've tried to promote posts, that it's something like you can't promote a photo that has more than a certain percentage of text in that logo. So, or in that photo. So if you're promoting like,
so like a tour photo,
I think you can do tour. See, I don't know. It's weird. Like you can do tour photos, but it's like, I think if you have like a specific show photo, then they won't let you promote that specific show if there's more text than graphics on that photo. It's really weird, and they have to approve. Yeah, exactly.
And it'll change tomorrow. So, but back to email marketing. Walter put up the statistics. The average person gets 121 emails daily. 121. Yeah, I probably get that between my work and my personal email
for sure.
But you know what? I'm very good at looking through my emails and deleting the stuff that I don't want, and at least not deleting, even if I don't open right away, the emails that might be interesting to me. And if you have opted into an email marketing campaign or email marketing from a band that you like, more often than not, the rates that I see on these open lists when they are targeted gig alerts are pretty high for email marketing. And actually, next week, I do want to make a plug. Next week, I have a local email marketing guru, Liz Provo, is going to be talking with me. It'd be great if you want to stop in with us. She's going to be talking about email marketing for she does it for small businesses, but we're going to talk about specifically how bands can leverage email marketing better
Cool.
to their advantage.
Nice.
So that's going to be pretty cool. I'm really excited. She's like this
Oh, word.
constant contact pro, and so she knows what she's
Yeah,
talking about. So that'll
and
be
I do
cool.
agree
Anyway,
with Walter. Is that his name? I do agree with what you're saying for
yep.
sure. I mean, people get a lot of emails, definitely, but again, like Kara, like you were saying, if it's something that you opt in on, I would imagine or hope that uh, it's something that I would hope that whoever's getting that will open it because they were opt into it. I mean, yeah, I get 120 emails a day as well. 20 to 30 of those is spam that, I mean, I look at it, I still see where it's coming from. And if it's, not something that I've obviously opted into or, Groupon or something, I'll delete it. But, I would hope that most people in the professional world are actually looking at their emails and looking at where they're coming from.
Yeah, I mean, you can see who they're from, and if you have opted into email list on purpose for something that you really enjoy, you're gonna open it at some point, or at least
Yeah.
a lot of people are. So our last tip is streamline and simplify what you're doing. Use sites like Artist Data and Hootsuite to make your life easier. Scheduling posts and using like Artist Data to get your gigs on multiple platforms and multiple places. And automate. There's a balance between automating your work, automating your Facebook posts and your Twitter tweets, but leaving room for you to improvise and add that personal touch daily. A lot of times I would recommend to my clients that, you're going to automate, so many tweets in a day, and then when they are, and then you can fill in the gaps with the more interesting personal stuff so that they know what's going on. They know the next gig is coming up, but here's, your personal tweet of what's going on in the moment, that kind of thing. But
Right.
streamline and simplify what you're doing using online tools that are going to make it easier.
Yeah, and what I wanted to touch on this is I highly encourage, and I just found out about Artist Data over the past year, but I highly encourage any band who's not on Artist Data to get on that immediately. It's
a wonderful tool.
so great. It saves so much time. You can post dates on your website, export a CSV file, bring that into Artist Data, and Reverb Nation, Jambase, all these different websites will get automatically updated. Not that, but they also have a publicity promo area where you can send dates. They'll automatically send dates to calendars and different publications in that region as well, which is huge. Artist Data really kind of blew my mind when I found out about it a year ago or so. So if any bands out there that are listening to this and are not familiar with Artist Data, I would highly recommend getting on that immediately.
Yeah. I don't know how much it costs.
Free.
Do you know what the cost is, or I don't know?
Yeah, Artist Data
then there's absolutely no reason not to be on.
Pretty sure it's owned by Sonic Bids, and you need to pay for a Sonic Bids account. But I don't think you even need a Sonic Bids account to use Artist Data. I think it's something that Sonic Bids just bought up and offers to bands. So yeah, it's totally free. As far as I haven't paid anything for it. So and you can also do.
Well, that's good.
And it's also good, for bands and agencies. So, like, for instance, I have my Artist Data where I have the John T and Dig and, the Workshy and Jamin and Sweet Lilies and all these other bands that I work with, so that it's all under one instead of, having to log into every single band individually. So it's kind of an old school interface and user interface, I feel like, but it's really good with keeping stuff organized and kind of cutting back time spent posting dates and stuff like that.
Well, there's so much to do when you're a musician. There's so many different things that you need to do as a band and as a musician that, automating things and using tools like Artist Data and Hootsuite to automate your social media posts. I mean, I don't recommend automating every single social media post, but, using it to help in your everyday efforts to, increase your music presence on the web
Yeah,
is
absolutely.
really useful. So, so do you have any closing thoughts, or
Um,
because we came to
yeah,
the
I
end of our
mean,
list.
I think this was a pretty good list for bands to, kind of think about. And, again, I think a lot of these things kind of go unnoticed by bands and they don't really think about it, going back to bios and stuff like that. So, I would just tell bands to really kind of sit down and think about the easiest way to help you cut back on time while at the same time maximizing your reach to your fans. Which I think is, kind of
Yeah.
the biggest lesson to learn from this is, it doesn't really have to be that hard. There's many ways to kind of tie everything in together and, have these social media and web outlets talk to each other to take time off of your hands. But, all these are extremely important points, both, in terms of website and social media presence, as well as just the overall idea of selling your band. I mean, all these things are things that you want in place to make things easier for you.
And I just say that I would like to go back to number one and keep your goals in mind, whatever you're doing, however you're marketing yourself, always understand why you're doing it. And, understand where is your goal? What are you working towards? And that's going to help you figure out which direction to go in. But
Yeah,
so
thank
thank
you.
you, Erwin. This was
Yeah,
so
this
much
is
fun.
this is
Again, we have
this
to
is
keep
great. I
doing
love
this.
this.
We
Yeah,
have to keep doing this.
I'm totally down to do this. Just let me
Cool,
know
cool.
every week. I love it. It's
Good.
great.
Good. Okay. Cool. Well, next week I'm interviewing Liz Provo of I am very bad and do not remember. I think it's Mass Marketing Resources is the name of her company, but she is a Western Massachusetts email marketing guru and extraordinaire. And I'm really excited. And maybe you can
Yeah,
hop into that blab and
yeah,
ask any
for sure.
questions that you have about that, because I met her when I used to be a prim and proper. I'm kind of prim and proper still, but um, uh, small business consultant. And I used to go to like the chamber events and stuff and wear suits. And then I turned in my suits for jeans and a leather shirt, a leather jacket for the music business. um, but she's really great, and she always stood out in this women in business group that I would go to, and I'm really excited
Nice.
to have her on next week. I think she's gonna have a lot of good stuff that musicians are gonna be able to take with them
Yeah,
to
for sure.
understand email marketing a lot better, and me understand email marketing even better. So this has been the 11th Engage Your Fanbase podcast. Today I had Erwin Shemenkowitz with me of Ever Upward Entertainment, and I am Kara Karma from Simon Says Booking and EngageYourFanbase.com, where I demystify music marketing for the DIY musician. Thanks so much for listening or watching, or however you are consuming this content, and we'll see you next week. Let's see, that would be February 1st.
Nice.
Take care and thanks a lot.